Good evening. We have some sad news for you tonight. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk has been killed in what appears to be a politically motivated assassination. He was shot in the neck while taking questions at Utah Valley University, where the suspect has now appeared, or at least suspect has been taken into custody. The 31-year-old was a high-profile conservative voice, especially for younger generations. I personally met myself with Charlie Kirk and interviewed him on several occasions. He was always kind and extremely generous with his time, gave very thoughtful and respectful answers to the questions that were presented to him. Charlie was a friend of President Trump and his sons Don Jr. and Eric, as well as many others in the conservative movement. He co-founded Turning Point USA when he was just 18 years old to bridge the divide between conservative students and liberal majority opinions on college campuses. And he was especially famous for taking questions from students about topics ranging from climate change to faith and family values, welcoming open discussion, something running completely contrary to the act of political violence that took place against him today. Turning Point USA writes, "It is with a very heavy heart that we confirm that Charlie James Kirk has been murdered by a gunshot. Charlie leaves behind his wife, Erica, and 2 young children. He will be deeply missed." Charlie Kirk was a force in garnering support from younger voters for the Trump campaign. For more, we go now to our Washington correspondent, Jack Bradley, who's in studio with us. Jack, tell us, what do we know so far about this tragic murder?
Sure. Well, it absolutely was a tragedy. Charlie Kirk was speaking at an event in Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah, just about 40 miles south of Salt Lake City. He was speaking to a crowd of hundreds as part of his America the Comeback tour, and at 12:20 local time, he was shot in the neck. Video captured this terrible incident, which we will not be showing for obvious reasons, but screams can be heard, and the crowd immediately scattered. He was rushed to a local hospital and pronounced dead. A spokesperson for the university said that Kirk was struck by a suspect who fired from a building about 200 yards or 500 feet away. Now they're saying a suspect had been taken into custody, was not a student, but then he was later released. Now officials say they have another suspect in custody. That's after the FBI was on the scene working with state and local authorities. Utah Governor Spencer Cox said his state will work with the federal government to bring Charlie Kirk's assassin to justice. He wrote on X, quote, "I just got off the phone with President Trump, working with the FBI and Utah law enforcement. We'll bring to justice the individual responsible for this tragedy. We are praying for Charlie's daughter, his wife, and son." Now, the news of Kirk's death had been spreading rapidly on social media with friends and those on both sides of the aisle expressing their condolences. California Governor Gavin Newsom was one of them. He said that on his podcast, he had him on his podcast with Charlie Kirk. They were discussing together, and he came out together today saying that this attack was just disgusting, reprehensible, and that we must reject political violence in every form. Now, the Utah University campus has been closed and classes are canceled until further notice. There's now a large police presence on the campus as we speak.
And Jack, obviously Charlie Kirk was a giant in the conservative movement, particularly appealing to conservatives on campus. What type of legacy do you think he's going to leave behind?
Well, he's done a lot. At age 31, he accomplished so much. He's the founder of Turning Point USA, which he started in his late teens. And from between then and now, he's accomplished an incredible amount. Over the past couple of years, he worked to support President Trump's re-election campaign. And he's been traveling from college to college recently, with many of his videos going viral, speaking with students about conservative values, but most importantly, past politics. This is a husband and a father and a friend to many. And according to Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma, who was there in attendance at the event, he said that Kirk's family was there, his wife and 2 children present at this event. I met Charlie Kirk, interviewed him at one of his events in Detroit during the campaign last year. And even though he was very busy, like you said, he's always making time for interviews. He was very nice and honest and a true believer in what he said. And those around him very much loved and respected him. Now, he'll live on in our hearts, and also we will have his family in our thoughts and prayers. Steve?
Very well said, Jack. Thank you for shedding light on this horrific tragedy. And conservative activist and influencer Charlie Kirk was killed at that university today. He was only 31 years old while speaking at an event to a crowd of hundreds, maybe thousands of his supporters. President Trump, just after the killing, ordering flags at the White House to fly at half-mast in honor of Charlie Kirk, who founded the nonprofit Turning Point USA. Joining us now live is NTD's Washington correspondent, who is at the White House, Mari Otsu. Good evening, Mari. So, how is President reacting to Charlie's death thus far?
Good evening to you too, Steve. It's been incredibly quiet and somber here at the White House after President Trump's announcement about this horrible tragedy. And a little less than 2 hours ago, reporters were all gathered around here silently, watching as the flags on the North and the South Lawn were lowered to half-mast in honor of Charlie Kirk. This is as President Trump is ordering a proclamation that all American flags throughout the nation fly at half-staff until Sunday evening. The president announcing Kirk's death on Truth Social writes, "The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he is no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife, Erica, and family. Charlie, we love you." And many among President Trump's cabinet are posting tributes expressing their love for Kirk and prayers for his family and the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance writes, "Eternal rest grant unto him, O Lord." And Secretary of State Marco Rubio is saying he is heartbroken and outraged by this assassination. He calls Kirk an incredible husband and father and a great American. And Brooke Rollins, the Agriculture Secretary, is calling this not only a tragedy for the Kirk family, but also a tragedy for the nation as a whole. Rollins writes, "Trading away the politics of reason and persuasion, Charlie's life's work, for the false politics of violence and murder is trading away America itself. What was killed today was a man of infinite worth in the sight of God, but the killer's target was our America too." She asks us to pray like you never have before. And others are also calling for unity in the wake of this tragedy. The Republican National Committee Chair, Joe Gruters, is asking both Democrats and Republicans to come together in condemning this shooting. He's calling the tragedy utterly appalling and saying that this brutality has no place in America. Gruters says that he's remembering Charlie as a father, husband, and dedicated patriot who spent his life defending conservative values and inspiring young Americans. And former President Joe Biden says that there's no place in our country for this violence, calling for it to end now. Turning Point, the organization that was founded by Charlie Kirk, as you said, helped to encourage younger voters to turn out for President Trump during his 2024 presidential campaign. And President Trump has credited Kirk with helping secure his return to the White House this year. So let's take a look at this clip from May of this year.
"I won the young people by 37%. No Republicans ever won, and I won by 37%. And Charlie Kirk will tell you TikTok helped, but Charlie Kirk helped also." Oh, he just happens to be here. Look at him. He loves that we mentioned that name, right, Charlie?
Utah Governor Spencer Cox, in a recent press briefing after the shooting, is saying that if anyone is celebrating the shooting, he urges them to look in the mirror to see if they can find a better angel in there. He's saying he doesn't care what Kirk's politics are, he only cares that he was an American. A prayer vigil is expected to be held in honor of Charlie Kirk tonight on Capitol Hill. Steve, back to you.
NTD's Mari Otsu live at the White House. Thank you, Mari. And joining us now live to discuss is National President of the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association, Mathew Silverman, along with spokesperson for the National Police Association, retired Sergeant Betsy Smith. It's really great to have you both with us, sadly under this terrible set of circumstances. Betsy, let's start with you. You've been working very closely with Charlie Kirk and Turning Point for several years. So tell us, what was your interaction with Charlie like, and what is your initial reaction to hearing about this senseless killing?
Well, I live in southern Arizona, and my husband was the Republican chairman here in southern Arizona during the last election. So, Turning Point USA, as well as Charlie Kirk and Turning Point Action, were instrumental in helping the conservative movement here in Arizona, as well as beyond, our borders here. And the National Police Association was a vendor at Charlie's Amfest events which started here in a church in Arizona and then moved on to the amazing event that it has become now. And when I first met Charlie years ago, he's the same age as my youngest kid. And he was just so affable. He was just a joyous young man. And he was very pro law enforcement. He clearly loves America, but he really loved law enforcement. And we were always very grateful for his help when it came to law enforcement issues, as well as conservative political issues here in Arizona and, of course, around the nation. We are heartbroken by this news.
Yeah, Mathew, you're no stranger to the criticism and attacks that came under fire for law enforcement. As a representative of tens of thousands of federal law enforcement officers, what is the reaction right now to somebody who was really such a giant when it came to standing up for law enforcement?
Charlie was one of the biggest supporters of law enforcement that's out there. It's actually very sad because Charlie was supposed to be coming to our Back to Blue Bash in Mar-a-Lago coming up on November 11th, where he was going to be one of our speakers. So it is very sad that he's not going to be able to make that, obviously. Charlie was one of the ones that went out there and he talked to these people. It was negative, never in a negative way. He talked to people, he let people have their opinions, and he had his opinions as well. And the simple fact that this First Amendment right can't be upheld because we have somebody out there that just doesn't like it. We have people all through this country that don't believe in whatever political party is there. Law enforcement, we don't care about politics. We're out there to protect the people as much as we possibly can. But when we have to deal with assassination attempts and assassinations, and I say assassination attempts, obviously because of what happened to President Trump, it just makes our job even harder. And you talk about the millions and billions of dollars that we're spending on protection for our elected officials and getting bashed in media and bashed by others about how much money we're spending. This is the reason that we have to do that. If we didn't have to worry about somebody not liking us because of our political party or not liking us because of our First Amendment right to speak and say the things that we want to say, we wouldn't have to worry about this. It's a sad day for all. And I'll say this, we witnessed the death of Charlie Kirk today, but we also witnessed something else. We witnessed the death of civility and humanity. This is a problem. This is an issue. And I'm glad that this suspect was caught and brought into justice extremely quickly by our amazing law enforcement officers that are out there and doing their job on a daily basis. But this is stuff that just can't happen. We can't live life in fear. And Charlie never lived life in fear. And, I was talking to somebody prior to knowing that Charlie did pass. And I said, what are the chances, if he does survive this, that he gets back out on that stage? And everybody I talked to said, Charlie's a man of his word. He's a man of God, and he will be out on that stage the second that he possibly can, if not live streaming from that hospital room that he's in. And of course, we won't ever be able to see that.
Now, you both bring a very unique perspective. You knew Charlie on a personal level, but you also bring a law enforcement dynamic to the conversation. And to Matt's point, Betsy, Charlie was talking to Senator Mike Lee leading up to the event, saying that a petition of thousands of people started to develop about 2 weeks before the event. Charlie said, according to reports, that he's used to getting pushback and opposition in California, but this was different in the red state of Utah. Are there concerns that a lot of these political events against conservatives are being stoked in an inorganic way, basically not by these students, but by outside forces that are really driving the hate that we're seeing that causes these, that Mathew spoke about? And what can be done to stop it?
Well, absolutely. You know what needs to stop is these people need to get a conscience. You know, Tim Walz is one of the biggest offenders, just celebrating the potential death of Donald Trump. Gavin Newsom, who, yes, posted on X how terrible Charlie's murder was, just a few weeks ago was posting about Trump's assassination. And just about an hour ago on the House floor, when Lauren Boebert asked the speaker if they could have a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk when they announced his death, there were Democrats on the House floor that booed. We have got to do what Charlie Kirk was trying to do, and we have got to tell the truth. We've got to tell the truth in the same way that he did, but we have got to stop talking about things like white supremacy and allowing this violent vilification of the right, which also includes the vilification of the American law enforcement officer. And we have got to speak out. We have got to tell the truth. And now we're going to do it in the name of Charlie Kirk. Go on X, go on Instagram, go on Reddit, and look at all the ghoulish, nasty postings about the murder of a 31-year-old man with a wife and 2 babies. We all need to look in the mirror, but we also need to stop saying this political violence is on both the left and the right, because we all know the truth. It's primarily on the left.
To that point, Mathew, you know, Charlie, part of what made him so special was that he was the one that was really facilitating or trying to civil discourse in some of the most hostile environments, college campuses, when it comes to conservative ideas.
Without a doubt. And I'll say this, just like any one of our professors, any one of our bosses that we might not like, we might not agree with, but we don't go out and kill them in cold blood, assassinate them. And what scares me is the possibility of any kind of copycats, like you said, for conservative thinking groups or other kind of venues like this. And Charlie was well protected over there. He had high-speed operators there to protect him. And what are you supposed to do when someone takes a shot from 200 plus yards away? There's nothing that we can do. There's vulnerabilities everywhere we are. The Secret Service on a daily basis takes precautions, and we saw what happened to President Trump. We need to work together to be a better society, all right? A killing is a killing. You can like somebody, you cannot like somebody, it doesn't matter. What is there to take the life of somebody? And like we've already said, it's not just the fact that he's a husband and has 2 children. I mean, these children are under the age of 4 years old. Now they're going to grow up without a father, listening to this and seeing this. And it's one of those things with social media as well. We love social media, but social media is the devil in itself. You know, Charlie's family was there. This could have been something that they watched in horrific manner on social media because it was out there on social media. We need to do better as a society, and anybody that is out there celebrating this death needs to look at themselves in the mirror and figure out what internally is wrong with them, because there's issues and problems. The majority of our murders that we have out there are the violence that we have out there is suspect on suspect, right? It's criminal on criminal. It's gang versus gang because of territorial needs or drug stuff that goes bad, or it's a carjacking or a robbery. This is completely different. This is a man who is out there spreading what he thought was right, and a lot of other people thought that it was right. But not everybody's ever going to agree with every statement that we make. So what is right? Are we allowed to just kill somebody because we don't agree with their statements? No, of course not. We're not allowed to do that. And the fact that people are celebrating this, and the fact that high-level politicians are celebrating it, makes this even sickening, more sickening than it is without a single person out there celebrating. People need to do a gut check, reality check. Our citizens in this country need to do a gut and reality check as well. Stand up for what's right, stop following what's wrong, and just behave like everybody's watching us.
Now, FBI Director Kash Patel saying that the suspected gunman is now in custody. Meantime, Utah Governor Spencer Cox said that a person of interest is now being interviewed as we speak by authorities. So with that said, Betsy, do you think, as you know, for what we know up until this point, which isn't too much, that the law enforcement agencies have reacted adequately and responded adequately to this incident?
Well, the university police chief at the press conference talked about, some of the things that they did, but he said, this is a huge open campus. They have a limited number of police officers. And yes, Charlie has his own very well trained security, but this is a difficult venue to be able to, to police. So now, hopefully, this is the only shooter. That shooter is in custody. I hope that they have also or are going to talk to the last person who asked Charlie a question. I think that's very notable since it was about mass shootings. But, this is going to be a long investigation. We don't know anything about the shooter right now, but, there's going to be multiple search warrants and presumably the campus around the campus area has been cleared. But you also always have to think explosives and additional shooters, things like that. And so, I think that we can take comfort in the fact that Kash Patel and the FBI and our federal brothers and sisters are helping with this investigation and that we will have answers and we need them sooner rather than later. This is extraordinarily unsettling for most Americans, and I do believe this is a turning point. That was Charlie's organization. That organization will continue, but and Mathew said it perfectly as well. That all of us need to look in the mirror, and especially our political leadership, especially those who continue to celebrate assassinations, attempts of President Trump, and some of them, yes, are celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. We must do better as Americans and as human beings.
Mathew, this is day 3 in the trial of the suspected gunman who was attempting to assassinate President Trump. The first one didn't make it, was killed by Secret Service. So here we are now with a major conservative political voice dead at the hands of a gunman. You have the FBI co-leading this investigation. What types of things are they going to be looking at as this plays out?
Of course, I have full confidence in Director Patel, Deputy Director Bongino, and the men and women of the FBI. All right, I want to say this. Can you imagine a world where we just kill someone simply because we don't agree with them? That's what just happened here. Someone was killed simply because we didn't agree with them. Imagine walking around this country or walking around your neighborhood or at work and, wow, somebody doesn't agree with me. Am I going to get murdered today? I think the next steps for the FBI or Homeland Security investigations or whoever's going to take the lead on this case is going to be to check social media accounts. It's going to be to check phone records. It's going to be to talk with family and see if there's anything else out there. At this point, we still don't know if there are other gunmen or other players in this assassination. There very well could be others that are out there. I would love to find out where this person was from. I almost guarantee you he is not from that local area. He waited. He went to probably many of these sessions that Charlie Kirk had, and he looked and he watched and he observed, where's the best vantage point for me to take this shot? Where's the best location that I can go out there and do this? So really downloading those phones, downloading that social media, talking with relatives and talking with friends, and making sure that there's no other co-conspirators that are out there, because there very well could be another co-conspirator out there that already has a list of another name or another 5 names or 10 names on that list that are next on this assassination list. And that's what the FBI and that's what the other federal agents, I guarantee, will start looking at to make sure that we're all safe and we're all secure. And that's what we want in law enforcement. We're not out there. Listen, we are out there on a daily basis. We're upholding the law. We are taking the oath that we swore to protect our citizens, and we're doing what is necessary to do that. Some people don't agree, obviously, with the immigration and customs enforcement operations that we're doing. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of these officers that are out there, they might not agree with it, but they're still doing it because it's a job that they are upholding their oath to office. They're doing it with dignity. They're doing it with kindness, and they're getting the people out of this country that are causing major issues inside of this country. This, obviously, I'm not saying as somebody who shouldn't be in this country. We need to find out a little bit more information on this shooter before we can really dive into that and see all what was going on, mental health conditions or anything like that as well.
Certainly a lot of questions. We saw just prior to the start of the show at the press conference with law enforcement, a question posed as to whether or not law enforcement has spoken to the person that was asking Charlie that question, which was in relation to the uptick in transgender shooters at places of worship. And it was as Charlie was about to respond to that question that he was shot dead. So there's still, like you said, Mathew, a lot of questions that have yet to be answered. Betsy, according to Utah Valley University, where the shooting took place, the shot is believed to have been fired from the rooftop of a building, roughly around, we're hearing, 200 yards away. Given the scale of this event, would you have expected a stronger security presence on site, particularly around nearby buildings and elevated platforms?
You know, here's the thing. First and foremost, what we need to remember is that 9 out of every 10 police departments in this country are short-staffed. So the chief talked about the limited number of officers that they have on the campus. And as Mathew said, when Charlie Kirk goes from campus to campus, there are always security issues. That's why Charlie has his own security. But again, this would have been a very difficult venue to lock down. So for a guy like Charlie Kirk, a public figure, but still a private person, for them to be able to have snipers on the rooftops and all the buildings locked down, that's just not practical. And so unfortunately, and again, this is what Charlie Kirk did. I have seen him on the campus here at the University of Arizona in Tucson, and he absolutely will talk to anything. That's what made him such a wonderful guy. So the campus police department did what they could do. And of course, you know, they'll, like Mathew said, they're going to be looking at social media and things. Were there specific threats to this campus and things like that? But, you know, Charlie gets so much hate and so much vitriol online. I think, of course, you're going to see things change now, perhaps, at least for a while on college campuses. But look, we still don't even lock up all of our grade schools appropriately, even while we continue to have these school shootings. Again, I hope that we are going to see a culture shift, and that will be part of Charlie Kirk's legacy when it comes to these types of events.
Yeah, Mathew, if you could close us out here, what you expect to see coming out of this, and I guess really what you would hope to see realistically.
I just want to add one thing as well. I mean, right after this happened, we had another school shooting in Colorado. And this is just an endless pandemic of shootings that are going on. What we need is we need our citizens, first of all, we need our citizens to step up. If somebody hears something or somebody sees something, they need to say something as well. This isn't just at the airports or on a train. I'm sure that this person was probably talking and other people probably laughed about it thinking that it was crazy or it wouldn't be for real. And look what just happened. So that's the first thing that we need to do is we need our citizens to step up and take responsibility for the actions that they take on a daily basis. We need to stop all the hate towards our law enforcement officers. It is a small percentage of people out there that don't like our law enforcement officers. It is a loud group, though, that doesn't like our law enforcement officers. It's the people that are out there that are paying these these haters to come out to these law enforcement events and start problems with our law enforcement officers. It's not really the people that are in that city. It's the people that are coming out that are being paid by others to make sure that there's issues. We need to stop that. We need to get along with our law enforcement officers. We need to give them the respect that they deserve. And they need to give the respect back as well. And I'm not saying that law enforcement are above the law. Law enforcement need to act as if somebody is watching them 24/7, because somebody's always watching us. And we need to keep treating our citizens with the respect. We need to keep building those community ties. We need to get the information out to them, and we need to get the information back in so we can prevent this stuff from happening in the future. What I expect to see in the future, I think that they're probably going to do better security sweeps of the area. When you have that many college students that are in one specific location because somebody like Charlie Kirk comes out, we do need to expand that out a little bit. And it's not just that area of 50 feet where the crowd's going to be. We need to look above. We need to look beyond. And just like we do home assessments and residential surveys on our politicians and our protected people, we need to start doing this for our college campuses, because this could have been a lot worse than what it was today. This could have been open fire and open season on all of the supporters of Charlie Kirk, not just Charlie Kirk. So I thank God right now that it was just Charlie Kirk. Although it's completely sad that we lost him, we could have lost a lot more people this day. And then what would we have done? I keep getting choked up because this is just not America. This is not the way that I look at our citizens. This is not the way I look at the people that live in this country, this free country that we're in. It's just a sad day, and I'm hopeful that it won't happen again, but I'm fearful that there's no chance that it won't happen again.
Mathew Silverman, Betsy Smith, really want to thank you both for coming on. Coming up, lawmakers responding to the death of Charlie Kirk. The House of Representatives holding a moment of silence. Take a look at that in just a moment.